Good afternoon. Sorry, minor technical hitch. Had to go and get a charger. What's happening, Magic family? So you're all ready on the dial, 5 o'clock. Sorry I was a little bit late. I had to go and get a charger. I realised that I hadn't charged my iPad. Prepared as ever. Okay, just give it a little bit of time, as always, for people to join in. Good afternoon, everyone. A few waves coming in. Hi, Richstone. Okay, cool. Right. So it's Saturday. It's 5 PM. It's NBA UK Fans Weekly Team Special. Very, very privileged today to have some pretty special guests on, to be fair. So I've just had to wolf down my chicken and rice to make sure I made it on time. So I'm going to see if we can add our first guest. Let's have a look. Here he is. Just wait for him to accept. Hi G-Shack, what's up? I've just got to give a little shout out to my ray of sunshine in the picture up there as well, who lets me use her bedroom every weekend to do these. Appreciated. Okay, just wait for this guest to join. Jeff, you there? Alright, hold on, let me try that again. Oh, no, not that one. Okay, sorry guys, give me a second. There we go. Right, Jeff, I'm going to try and add you in now. Let's see if we can do that. Just need you to accept the invite. Here he is.
There we go.
How you doing, Jeff?
I am good.
Welcome.
Sorry,
Thank
I'm
you.
technologically challenged. I didn't get hooked up right.
Don't you worry at all, mate. Thank you very, very much for joining us this Saturday. We are very privileged to be in the company of our first NBA player as a guest. So we've been doing these for a few weeks now, obviously with the lockdown. We've been trying to keep the content going, keep everyone engaged, keep everyone interested. So very privileged to have you on and really appreciate you joining us, Jeff.
Oh, I'm glad to be here. It's always fun to talk NBA basketball, especially since we're kind of in a little bit of a hiatus here. So
Yeah,
glad to
sure.
have you on.
Sure is. I mean, yeah, it was a bit of a strange one because I was watching Oklahoma, Utah about to start, and then bam, no more basketball ever
Yeah.
since. So, yeah. So, Jeff, for anyone who doesn't know you, can you just give us a little introduction? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay. Well, my whole life has been about either the NBA. I've been a player. I've coached a little bit of high school basketball, and done a lot of broadcasting. So I played for the Orlando Magic for 7 seasons.
Mm-hmm.
I was a part of the initial expansion team in '89. Retired in '96 because of numerous knee injuries, and then was very fortunate to have David Steele, who was doing radio at the time by himself, asked me to join him as a color analyst doing Magic Radio. So he kind of gave me my first chance to broadcast. Did that with him for a year, and then another 6 years, or no, excuse me, I guess 8 years with Dennis Newman doing radio. Stepped away, just wanted to do something a little different, coached some high school basketball and worked as an administrator at a local high school here in town, and then rejoined the Magic broadcast crew as a television analyst in full-time in 2013. So just a little step away, but 22 years now with the Orlando Magic organization, either as a player or a broadcaster. So very fortunate to still be with them.
Fantastic. So you've been there since day one, essentially.
Yes.
So the Orlando fans that we have following us today and watching this, they're looking at an Orlando legend who's been there since the very beginning. So obviously you were drafted in 1984 by the New Jersey Nets. That's correct, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, one thing I did notice is obviously I do a little bit of research before we do a live because you can't go in unprepared. So one thing I noticed, you were from Bangor in Maine. Is that correct?
Yes, it's an interesting story. I was my parents. Well, my father was stationed in Bangor in the Air Force He was a B-52 mechanic back in the early 60s. So I was born there, but didn't live there about 11 months.
Okay.
So as a toddler, before moving back to Florida, where my mother was from and where my parents had set up a permanent residence. So I was born in Maine, but never really lived there for any length of time. So the funny story about all that is, they always do these great lists, right, about the best NBA player from each state in the United States. Well, for a long time, because of my birth, I was the only NBA player born in the state of Maine. So by default, I was the best NBA player from Maine. But that all changed here recently with a young man by the name of Duncan Robinson, who NBA fans are familiar with, who plays for the Miami Heat now. He too was born in Maine. So now I've got a little competition for that coveted honor of being the best player from Maine.
Excellent. Well, we'll have to see how his career pans out then. You
I
still
think
got to
he
look
got
there.
a pretty good start on it.
Yeah, definitely. So a nice thing about that is as well, I know you know Geraint, who's one of the people who runs the Magic family over here in the UK. There is a place called Bangor in Wales, and Geraint is from Wales as well. So that's the little tedious link for this Saturday. So obviously being drafted in 1984 as well. Now, as we know, that is a draft class that was rich with talent.
Yeah.
So, I mean, obviously we had Hakeem, Clyde Drexler, yourself, Charles Barkley, I think was that year as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and there was a chap from North Carolina. I think there's a TV show about him. They're doing it at the minute. We'll come on to that later, though. So obviously you played in New Jersey first, and like you said, so we don't need to touch on that too much because this is an Orlando Magic special, so we can talk about that. So yeah, so it was 1989, wasn't it, that the Magic expansion happened? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So and you joined then. What was it like being part of a brand new franchise?
It was really it was a lot of fun. There was a lot of excitement in the city of Orlando. The interesting thing is, I told you after my dad got out of the Air Force, we moved back to Florida. We moved to Orlando. So I really grew up in Orlando, and small town, really no major sports. We had some minor league baseball, little minor league football, but that was about it. And so to come back and be a part of the first major sports franchise in Orlando, and the excitement around it was really special, especially for a kid that grew up in Central Florida, because I had a really nice understanding. For years, if you were a sports fan, you rooted for somebody else. Like I grew up. Don't tell anybody this, but I grew up kind of as a Sixers Celtic fan myself because I didn't have anybody else to root. Dr. J obviously was my guy who everybody wanted to be like. He was our Michael Jordan or Kobe Bryant or LeBron James of the era. So we followed the Sixers, we followed the Celtics, teams like that. So being a part of that first team was really special.
Yeah. That's awesome. I mean, I think that's nice. Well, I didn't know the connection with yourself having grown up there as well. So that is cool. So for me, I started watching basketball in about 1995. I was 13 years old. So you would have still been playing then, I believe.
You just made me feel real old right there. So
sorry, yeah. I'm pushing a little bit myself as well. But yeah, so I came into it at a time when Orlando were really in the ascension as well. So you had obviously Shaq, Penny Hardaway, Geraint's absolute favourite, Nick Anderson, Horace Grant was there as well. So for me, I don't remember the expansion times, but Orlando was always a team when I first got into it that was a big franchise that was doing well and obviously going places. So yeah, so it's been an interesting few years. There's been another trip to the final since, but yeah, it's certainly a team that I've been aware of for a long time, so all good. One thing I did want to touch on with you as well is I know we mentioned obviously the Mr. North Carolina. You played in the Olympics with him, didn't you?
I did. I was a part of the 1984 Olympic team, the last amateur team to win the gold medal for the United States. I had actually, after Michael Jordan's freshman year, he and I were teammates on a select USA team that toured a few cities in Europe for about 3 weeks.
Hmm.
So that was my first experience. Obviously, a little different, the freshman Michael Jordan than what we saw after 3 years at North Carolina and his development and everything. But no question on that '84 team, he was our leader. He was our best player. And a really special time for me. I mean, it's the only undefeated team I've ever been a part of.
Yeah.
We had a great run through the '84, not just the Olympics, but leading up to the Olympics, we played 9 games, kind of exhibition games against NBA, not really all-star teams, but teams loaded with NBA players. And we won all of those. Having been an NBA player, I realized that the summer months are not peak times for NBA players, but we could sense that they were very competitive, didn't want to lose to a bunch of college guys. So those were fun games as well.
Excellent. Yeah, that was a team as well that had some serious depth as well, because I had a look. Obviously, Patrick Ewing as well was on that team.
Yeah. So
One of my favourite players who sort of flies a bit under the radar for a lot of people, Chris Mullin, because I always thought he was brilliant. He was on there as well, and obviously Michael Jordan, and yourself. So I'm taking it that you have been watching The Last Dance.
I have been watching The Last Dance. It's been fun because I've been watching it with my 2 daughters. So my daughters are 26 and 23 now, but they really weren't old enough. My oldest daughter was just a baby when my career was coming to a close during those NBA Finals run back in '94, '95. So like a lot of young people their age, they haven't really looked at Michael Jordan. They've seen clips, they've seen highlights, they've watched Space Jam,
Yeah.
but they've never really seen the behind the scenes or watch extended footage of him. So it's been fun for me kind of watching them gain an appreciation for how great a player Michael Jordan was. And I think a lot of people are doing that. I know, watching the comments that a lot of our players, young players on the Orlando Magic, and then around the league, I think they're getting appreciation too of just how good a player he was. And, I thought one of the most telling things in the last couple of, I don't know if it was 5 or 6,
5 and 6, yeah.
but the interview with Kobe Bryant, who, for your generation, everything, probably the guy that really was kind of the symbol of the league at the time. And for a lot of young players and the ones that are in the league right now, Kobe was their guy. And him saying, everything that you see me do basically is Michael Jordan. That was the influence that he had on me. So I think there's a nice tie there. And I really thought that was an impactful part of the show.
Yeah, that was a tough part of that episode to watch, I think, for all of us. Because like you said, I mean, I mentioned obviously that I grew up and I saw a lot of Michael Jordan, obviously, and then I saw a lot of Kobe Bryant as well.
Right.
And yeah, the whole NBA, anyone who followed basketball, even outside of basketball, was devastated with what happened. But it was watching that, we knew it would be a bit of a tough watch, but it was just nice the way it sort of encapsulated that. Because I think some people always thought that Kobe always thrived to be the best and the best player ever. But to hear him say, yeah, I took so much from Michael Jordan there's a sweet touch that. So I've got quite a good question for you here, Jeff, that someone's got from the bottom. It says, did you ever play cards with Michael Jordan?
Let me tell you this. When I was part of the Olympic team, for whatever reason, I didn't have enough cash to get into card games with Michael Jordan and those
Probably
guys.
A good thing.
I stayed out of that. So it was a great, I've told this several times. People have asked me, what was my takeaway from being around Michael Jordan so much? And I always tell people, and I think it's being borne out in the documentary as well, the most competitive person I have ever been around. As athletes, as professional athletes, we don't get to that level unless there's a high degree of competitiveness in us, right? That's what drives us, the wanting to play against the best and prove that we belong there. But he took it to a whole nother level. And, the question was about the card games. Those are infamous. My favorite story is during the Olympics, we had a cookout, a barbecue at Coach Knight, our coach's house there in Bloomington, Indiana, where we were training. And he had a pool table, billiard table. And so, we all gravitated to the table. And then it became, if you won, you kept the table. It was whoever was next, right? So Michael lost early. I can't tell you who he lost to, but he did. And then, as the night goes on, he's worked his way back to the table. Well, it's getting late. We've got practice the next morning, but none of us were allowed to leave the house until he played all of us and whipped us. Basically,
Right. Okay.
we weren't allowed to leave. Now, again, the competitor in him, he's pretty good.
Yeah, true,
and
true.
so I don't know. I know I tried to beat him. That's just how it was. But I think as the evening went down, it was almost like, just lose so we can go get some sleep, because we got a 3-hour practice tomorrow. But needless to say, we didn't get out of there until Michael beat everybody.
That sounds about par for the course, I'd say. So, okay, Jeff, one more thing before we wrap up. And like I said, I'm massively grateful for you for joining us today. Really appreciate it. So without upsetting anyone that you might have played with before, if you could pick your favourite Orlando Magic teammate that you played with, obviously in Orlando, is there one that shines out for you?
Oh my gosh. There are so many, and I hate to single anybody out, but I think for me, I guess I have to go back to the beginning. I mean, I love playing with Shaquille, made me a better player. Obviously, Penny Hardaway is one of my favorites. Scott Skiles, there was a stretch, where Scott and I had a pretty good thing going with a little pick and pop play that we ran. That was great for my career. But I guess if I have to look at the extent of my time in Orlando and everything, it'd have to be Nick Anderson. Just because, I was there when Nick Anderson, came to the Magic as a 21-year-old kid. His locker was right next to mine. And so I have watched Nick Anderson grow from, that young player just out of the University of Illinois into, arguably one of the greatest players in Orlando Magic history.
Yeah.
And all the great things he did. It's been fun watching a lot of these classic games over the last, because you really begin to get an appreciation for Nick Anderson and the big plays, right, that he made. That, even though we had Shaq and Penny and Dennis and Horace, Nick, his contributions in that run to the NBA Finals was just, we don't get there without him, and just watching that and reliving it. And I know Nick's probably enjoying it as well, watching it and people really understanding. But, the same can be said for Dennis Scott as well. I think seeing those classic games, I think people are really getting an appreciation of how good not only Nick Anderson was, but Dennis Scott as well.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, I know a lot of the networks have been doing that, haven't they? They're rerunning the classic games and stuff. And I think, again, that goes back to the point you made about the youngsters being able to watch people who they wouldn't have experienced, they wouldn't have been around to watch, and they might have seen highlights, that sort of thing, but they can see the full games and break down things and say, man, that guy was amazing, the things he used to do there. So, so of all the bad stuff that's come out of the current situation, obviously there are positives to be taken as well with the content and the flashbacks and all those sorts of things. So, like I said, we've only been doing these since the hiatus. So, yeah, we're definitely taking positives from that as well. So, Jeff, thank you so much for joining us. Honestly, we really appreciate you coming on today.
This has been great. You guys feel free to just give me a call anytime. I'd be happy. Love walking down memory lane.
Absolutely. We'd love to have you back on, Jeff. We'll definitely sort that out. And please stay safe. Love to you, all you and your family. And please look after yourselves as well.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Right. Thanks, Jeff. Take care. Cheers. Okay, cool. Right. Thank you, Jeff. That was wicked. Really enjoyed that. Right. I'm looking at the time. We are going to have to do a stop and start, but I'll do that later on so we make sure we get everyone in. Next up, let's see if we can get Dante on the line. Let's see if he's in here. Here he is. Just wait for Dante to accept. Here he is, coming in now. Dante, how are you?
I'm doing great, Rich. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. I'm good. Again, thank you for joining us today. Really appreciate it.
Well, I don't know how
So,
I can follow up. I don't know how I can follow up Jeff Turner. I didn't play with Shaq or Michael Jordan or any of those guys, but that was a great listen. We love JT. We're big JT fans. Good to talk to
absolutely.
you.
Yeah, you too. Well, Geraint's got to go at the end, so he's got a big challenge. He's got to follow up all of you guys as well. So he's probably sitting there really nervous now. So,
No, he'll be
yes.
great.
So thank you for coming on. I'll say it is good afternoon where you are. It's not good morning anymore, is it? It's just after lunch, yeah.
Just afternoon. That's right. We're into the afternoon here, but that's
Great stuff.
beautiful weather too. We got in the northeast of the country. They got snow and we got beautiful sunshine down here. So we're
Excellent.
pretty excited about that.
Hope you're making the most of that. That's cool. Okay, so Dante, for anyone who doesn't know, can you just give us a little intro into yourself and what you do?
Yeah, sure. I host all the telecasts on Fox Sports Florida. So if you watch the game really anywhere, I mean, you watch it here in Central Florida or watch it in the UK, wherever you're watching, if you watch the game on Fox Sports Florida, you'll see myself do the pregame show. I do the halftime show, postgame as well, interviews with coach and players, and work alongside Jeff, who we just heard from, and obviously David Steele, who does play-by-play. So I'm probably just finished about season 11 or 12 being part of the telecast. But I've been with the Orlando Magic organization since 1998. So I came here after college and been fortunate enough to work for this terrific organization and also Fox Sports Florida here for the last 10 or 12 years. So that's my capacity now. And hopefully, Rich, at some point we're able to get back out there and have games again.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a crazy time out there. I mean, what's your sort of take on the various ideas that the league are putting forward in terms of isolating and tournaments and stuff? What's your thoughts on that and what they're suggesting?
You know what? It's hard to know, Rich, and you just trust so many people kind of above our pay grade and much smarter than me making those decisions. So I know they're weighing all options, and I know team practice facilities in various cities are starting to open. So I take that as an encouraging sign, at least a step. Where it goes from there, we're just kind of going to have to wait and see. There's just a lot of unknowns and a lot of variables moving forward. But I trust Adam Silver. And
Yes.
if there is a way to get it done, Rich, he'll find it. And
Yeah.
so we're certainly optimistic and we're certainly encouraged by him. He's a terrific leader. And, the scenarios are interesting, all the ones that are playing out. And we hope that they're able to come up with one.
Yeah, I mean, there was an interesting one as well that they were potentially going to put, if they were going to have a tournament, they were going to put it in Orlando, I believe, as well. That was one of the things that was bounced around as an idea.
Yeah, you're hearing all the rumors, and it's hard to know what exactly. You're kind of getting little bits and pieces out of all these meetings, but it's certainly interesting, and we know they're exploring all options, and we're just going to be watching kind of like everyone else. Unfortunately, we're not privy to any information outside of anyone else, so we're following all the same headlines and all the same stories too.
Excellent. Okay, so you said you've been with the Orlando Magic in various capacities since 1998. So you've seen lots of years,
Right.
some years of success, some years of transition. So what would you say over the course of those years, your favourite memories and experiences, the real highlights, the real buzz moments that have been that for you?
Well, for me, it was working the NBA Finals in 2009. I think the opportunity to get to go. I mean, I'll never forget walking onto the Staples Center floor there in 2009 for Game 1, and we're going against the legendary Kobe Bryant. You got Pau Gasol out there at the time. Andrew Bynum was playing terrific basketball, Lamar Odom, and here we are in LA, this young team, kind of ahead of its time, led by Stan Van Gundy, and you got Hedo Turkoglu and Rashard Lewis, and kind of just a buzzsaw coming off that terrific win against the Cleveland Cavaliers in the Eastern Conference Finals and beating LeBron James, who had won 62 games. And you're thinking, man, this is really happening. We're in the NBA Finals. So all of that kind of hitting you as you're walking onto that floor there in Staples Center in 2009 is a memory that I'll never forget. And there's been big moments. You remember Tracy McGrady getting 62 points in a game. That was phenomenal. And he's still mad to this day that he missed 9 free throws. He would like to have had 70.
Yeah.
I think he missed 9 of his last 10 shots too. He thinks he might have had 80. But there's been some big, Darrell Armstrong stealing the ball and laying it in at the buzzer. Big shots by Rashard Lewis in 2009. In Boston, winning in Boston to knock out the Celtics. Sorry, I know I see the hat on, and I'm actually from Boston. I'm actually from Boston originally, so I was a Celtics fan growing up, but certainly not anymore. In fact, they had to combat you with all the Magic gear. So,
Yeah.
but but winning that series and getting to an NBA Finals, that getting to work, that was just incredible. That's something I'll never forget.
Excellent. I know Geraint did a podcast the other day with one of our different people we know, who's Dan Healy. He runs the Miami Heat UK, and there was a really interesting little question at the end that Dan posted to Geraint. Is like, who wins the title first, Miami or Orlando? So I'll put that one to you. I mean, if you had to pick, so it could happen.
Well, I'm hoping it's Orlando. That's what I'm hoping. I feel like we've got the pieces, we've got the young core, and I know Miami was having such a terrific season, and they might be a little bit further ahead in their development, but it doesn't mean they're ready to win a title this year or next year. So they certainly seem to be having a terrific year. But the Magic have played them well. Magic have played them well for a number of years, and I love that rivalry seems to be back. I think that's a lot of fun, that in-state rivalry. And, it started with Jeff back in '89 and, the playoffs in 96 and 96 with Penny having a terrific season, 97 actually. Yeah, that was fantastic. And, so I think that rivalry is back, and I'm hoping it's the Magic, because I look at this young core of Fultz and Isaac, and, you got Mo Bamba in the mix, and certainly Aaron Gordon and all these youngsters here that are part of this team. And I think there's a lot to be excited about as you continue to watch this team grow. So I'm hoping that it's going to be this Orlando Magic situation. So I'm certainly going to throw my hat in the ring for them.
Great stuff. I'm glad you mentioned Markelle Fultz then as well, because
yeah.
That was a very strange situation what unfolded in Philadelphia. I mean, I know there was injuries. There was questions about his problems with his nervous system in his shoulder as well, because there's a very strange video where you see him twitch when he was in Philadelphia, and it's like there's definitely something wrong with that. So, but I think I speak for probably anyone who's a basketball fan. There's nothing better than a comeback story, and to see where he was, and to go to Orlando, and he's now a lot of people's sort of favourite player as well, and a very exciting prospect. And the kid has game. He's good on the floor.
He is.
How's it been for you watching that this year? Obviously, with all the stuff that had happened before for him.
Yeah, well, you're right. I mean, here's the thing: we saw all the same footage you guys saw, right? So that's all we knew when we made the trade for Markelle. You knew he was the #1 pick. You knew he's loaded with talent. 30 teams would have made him the #1 pick. I mean, he was unquestionably the guy. But you saw the struggles, you saw the injury, you saw what he was going through in Philadelphia, and you didn't know what was what. And you hear rumors like everybody else, and then you meet him. And the first time you talk to Markelle Fultz, you realize this is a special kid. I mean, really, he's a humble kid. He's grounded. And you think, Philadelphia is a very tough fan base. And, those fans expect a lot out of their players. And it would be very easy for him to come to Orlando and be very jaded based on the stories that were written about him, the rumors that were put out there about him, what he went through medically, his injury, and for him to be, for him to have a negative outlook towards the media. It couldn't have been the opposite. He was very gracious. He's been nothing but forthright, and he's been terrific to deal with and speak to. And he's very candid. He'll tell you exactly what he's thinking and how he's feeling. So our impressions and our interactions have been fantastic. Seeing him on the plane, seeing him on the bus, seeing him all these other cities, and the way he's handled all of this. And I think the #1 thing, if you'd have seen him in June, just trying to shoot a free throw, just that distance from the rim, he was hurt, and he wasn't getting answers. And what's going on with my shoulder, and why when I go to shoot a free throw am I getting these sharp pains? What's happening? And just they couldn't diagnose this. Well, then finally they came through with the diagnosis, that thoracic outlet syndrome. And there's been only a few cases, but those that have had it know exactly what he's been through and the pain that he's had to go through. So for him to even get back on the floor and dribble a basketball and shoot a basketball this year, I think was just a terrific sign, let alone the big games that he's had and the thunderous dunks that he's had and the triple-double in Los Angeles to beat the Lakers. And we've seen at the end of basketball games, Rich, this, when he's had the ball in his hands and his ability to finish and game winners and big baskets that he's hit late, I think you're seeing that confidence soar. And we've seen stretches and flashes of the guy that they made the #1 overall pick. So first year, huge success. Let's just get this guy on the floor. Let's let him learn his teammates. Let's let him get back to loving the game of basketball, and he has. And he loves Orlando, and he wants to be here for a long, long time, which is very exciting for Magic fans. Now he knows exactly what he's got to work on. He works on it every day in practice. Now let's see what kind of a player is this guy going to be this time next year. And I think that's what makes Magic fans very excited.
Yeah, it's great. I'll speak for the majority. We wish him all the best as well, because it is genuinely nice to see someone come back and overcome challenges like that. And it's like you say, Orlando took a bit of a punt on him and said, "Yeah, do you know what? We'll take on someone whose track record we don't know what's going to happen with him." So you can totally understand why someone would sit there and go, "Do you know what? This team has invested in me. Why would he want to go anywhere else?" That's the thing. And you could potentially build around him. Who knows what the future might bring for him?
And you know what, too? And you're right, Rich. And just one more thing to piggyback on that. He feels the love. He feels the love. Every time he has the ball in his hands, he puts the ball on the floor, he goes to the basket, he puts a shot up. He hears it from the crowd. He feels it. There's an energy in the building when Markelle Fultz has the basketball. And I know you guys will see that soon enough when you get over here. We feel so bad that Geraint and Mikey and everybody had their trip canceled and weren't able to see those games. But, everyone will get to see that. And anyone that's been there, they feel that energy. And he certainly feels the love here in Central Florida, no question.
That's great. One more thing as well, Dante. I appreciate, obviously, we have time against us with Instagram time and it's that sort of thing.
Sure, absolutely.
One thing I wanted to go through with you, I know I put this to you already, your all-time Magic 5. So 2 guards, 2 forwards, 1 center.
All-time Magic starting 5. Well, you got to have Penny Hardaway has got to be your point guard, right? You got to start there. You got to go with Tracy McGrady. You got to have him on there. So are you saying that I can't have Shaq and Dwight together? Because I personally would put Dwight at the 4 and Shaq at the 5. Okay,
I think you can do that. For the purpose of this, we'll let that.
All right, I appreciate that. And then this is the age-old question: who's the 5th guy? And I think this has led to some terrific debate. And who should it be? And who can play that 3? And you heard Jeff Turner mention Nick Anderson. That's a terrific addition, and put him in there. But for me, I don't know that it's not Hedo Turkoglu. I think with everything that Turk was able to do and handling the basketball and the way he shot it, and I think everything that Turk brings, I think that would be the guy. So I think that's a pretty good starting 5. Dennis Scott is in the equation certainly, and there's a lot of good options, but I think maybe you put Turk in there.
Okay, cool. And how many games is that team winning in a season, regular season?
81. 81. Is that too many? Was that too many games?
No, that's fine.
I think that's a 65, maybe 70 win team, right? Depending on how well they're able to. I mean, you imagine Shaq and Dwight together? I couldn't imagine those guys. Give me Shaq and Dwight now. Give me both those guys now. I think that'd be playing together. I think that'd be pretty impressive. And we're big Penny fans in this house, as you can see as well. So, we've been fortunate, Rich, in this team's short history, just 31 years. There's been some great ones that have come through these doors and some Hall of Famers, and it's been fun to have gotten to watch and cover most of them.
Good stuff. Well, Dante, thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate you taking time out of your schedule to come and spend time with us, and we'd love to have you on again in the future if we can set something up.
Absolutely.
Really good of you to come on. Thank you, Dante.
Anytime, Rich. You bet.
Like I said to Jeff, take care, stay safe, and love to all your family.
You do the same, okay? All right, take care, man. You guys be safe. We'll talk to you soon.
Definitely. Right, cheers, Dante. Thank you. Okay, thank you, Dante. That was cool. I love doing these, guys. You probably noticed. I sit and I just take it all in. I absolutely love doing it. Next up, we have a UK-based Magic representative. So let's get him on the line. Right, where are we at? Here we go. Wait for Paul to come in. It's warm today. Hey, Paul.
Hey, Rich. How you doing?
I'm all right, mate. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Thanks for having us.
Oh, pleasure, mate. You enjoying it?
Yeah, it's been really good. Yeah.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
Just a quick shout out to Jeff and Dante for doing that for us. Very much appreciated.
Yeah, really appreciate that, and obviously shouts out to you guys as well. With obviously Geraint as well, and Mikey getting these guests on as well, because it's like we say, we say to you guys, we're happy to host it, but if you can provide us with some guests, it makes it a lot better because you guys have the connections at the end of the day. So
it's good content you're putting out, Rich. So we're happy to help along.
Appreciate that, mate. Appreciate it. So, Paul, give us, we'll just have a little bit an introduction. You and me spoke yesterday at length on the phone, so I already know a lot of this. But for everyone watching, give us an intro about obviously how you got into the Magic and how long you've been supporting the team, because I know you've got some really good stories there.
I only came to basketball in 2010 when my daughter started playing basketball for our local team, the Mansfield Giants. I'd never watched basketball before. started to watch it when she was playing and got really into it. I need to watch the NBA here. So kind of the first time I remember watching would be 2012 season. So your Cobes and LeBrons and all these, they were the teams. The teams were Miami, the Spurs, Celtics, some fantastic teams. But I decided as I got into this, I really need to have a team to support. As a family, we holiday in Orlando, and I have to have a team that I feel connected to. So regardless of how well we were doing at the time, I went for Orlando because that's where we feel at home. That's
nice. That's a nice touch. A good reason as well. Definitely a good reason. I know you've got a funny reason for your football allegiance as well, but we'll leave that for another time.
Another time, perhaps.
Yeah, definitely. So Paul, we're going to obviously you are part of the UK Magic family who do a lot of travelling, go to a lot of games. Obviously, we were all sad to hear that your trip got cancelled this year, along with a few other fans that we know, like Dan from Miami Heat, Aaron from the Pacers.
Absolutely, yeah.
All of you sadly couldn't make it out. I mean, fortunately, I hope you all got full refunds and everything like that.
Well, thanks. From a personal point of view, we weren't actually going because my daughter's in the final year of university. Cool. So we had already delayed our trip until next March. So fingers crossed we do get some basketball when we get out there. Yeah, but I was gutted for everybody who, you look at the trip that the UK Heat have got lined up. That was superb. Absolutely gutted for them.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, as a man who's been to a lot of games, tell us about some of your favourite games and experiences you've had, because I know you've got some cracking stories there.
Well, probably my favourite game is a game that we actually lost, which was only my second game. Double overtime, where Russ Westbrook went for 48, Kevin Durant went for 42, 43. We had 3 clutch threes at the end of the fourth quarter. I was celebrating so hard at Oladipo's 3 with about 3 seconds to go. I nearly missed Westbrook's nail in the coffin for us. What a free throw! What a 3 that was! Incredible. Then we got Vic hit another 3 buzzer beater to take us into the second overtime, and were it not for 2 excellent blocks by KD in the final seconds of the second overtime, we could have had a third overtime because both, if memory serves me right, it was Evan and Victor Oladipo who both had shots blocked. It was unbelievable. What a game. What a game. It was quality throughout. We'd thrown away leads, we'd gained leads. It was just incredible. Superb atmosphere as well. And that game actually resulted in one of the best experiences I've ever had as a Magic fan. Stood in Epcot. I've got my Orlando shirt on. I have a personalised number on it, F68 from year of birth, because I'm also a jinx on having team shirts. If I have a team player shirt, that player's leaving. So I never have a favourite player shirt. I always have a personalised one. And there we are in Epcot. I'm waiting around, and I get this group of about 20 very, very drunk Americans come bouncing up to me, high-fiving, yo, go Magic, and all this sort of thing. It's drinking around the world time in Epcot. Long story short, they get talking to me, find out UK fan. Can't believe that they've got a UK fan who personalised shirt. Here's my email. Email us, we'll sort something out. It led to the experience of being taken out onto the we sat courtside. We got took onto the court to be introduced to the Amway crowd. That is a surreal experience, being cheered and applauded just for being a UK fan. We then got to stand on court for the anthems and then high-five the team on. Incredible. I was against the Jazz. And thankfully, we won as well, which was just the icing on the cake. But that was the last night of the holiday, and the next morning we flew home. What a way to finish the trip.
Absolute buzz that is.
And then a thrill for any Magic fan is to meet T-Mac. The guy's a legend. Obviously, I didn't come to basketball until much later, so I never saw him play with the Magic. That is a huge regret. But, as you watch the jump or whatever, he's still involved with the team. The man's a legend. The guy's a legend. And I was in town with my wife for his inauguration into the Orlando Magic Hall of Fame. and I got invited along. My wife and I got invited along to represent UK fans, which was incredible. The hospitality we got. We were actually sitting with T-Mac's family, which was brilliant. To sit and talk with them. It got to the point actually where they went up for photos, and I got the phones passed. Can you take a photo of us? It was a very, very bizarre moment. Absolutely great. And got to go and have photos with the guy, talk to him, meet him. Interestingly, he's never been to the UK. Never been to the UK, he says.
Well, he'd always have a place to stay with you, I'm sure, Paul.
He's more than welcome. He's more than welcome, though Mike is a super fan.
No,
Mike is a super fan of T-Mac.
I mean, just to hear you talking about it, Paul, it's like us fans in the UK, obviously, we don't get as much access to the games as you would if you lived in America. That's obvious.
Absolutely, yeah.
There's an ocean in between us. But just to see the look on your face, talking to us about those experiences, that's the things that makes it all worthwhile, isn't it? And
it is. I mean, it is. Okay, I've been very lucky with some of my friendships, the experiences that have been open to me as a result. When the Magic came over here in 2016, I got invited down to the team hotel. I didn't have tickets to the game because they went on sale whilst we were in Orlando. Time difference, it was, you know, how the London game sells out. I wasn't going to the game. But I got invited down to the team hotel and hung around in the Intercontinental on Park Lane there, sitting with Aaron Gordon, sitting with Mario Zonja, and I think actually it's the first time I met Jeff and David. So it was just a very fortunate moment and fantastic experience. But the thing it's led to is the friendships we've got across the world, and that culminated in the trip that we had to the playoffs last season for games 3 and 4. I'll never forget the excitement we got and I apologise for this, Rich, but beating yourselves in Boston to qualify for the playoffs. That was, oh man, what a night, what a celebration. We had just the 3 of us here in our house and messaging Geraint and Mikey. So we're on, we're going. Yeah. Next morning we were all on the phone organising flights, and getting there for game 3 and 4. We met up with so many people that we interact with through Twitter, through Facebook, through doing this. The friendships that we've gained that's the icing on the cake, man.
Yeah,
it really is.
I say it every week. It seems to creep into a conversation every time. The basketball unites. It brings people together. I know you're a football fan as well. I am a bit of a football fan, not as much as I used to be. But the difference seems to be that there's so much more harmony. It's like bringing people together from across the world. And magical sport. And to hear about those sorts of occasions, fair play.
Yeah. Well, my least favourite game I've ever been to was against the Celtics. It was a dire match. You know, when you look at the lineups that both teams had injuries. The Magic had Evan out, had Aaron Gordon out, had Jonathan Isaac out. You'd got Kyrie Irving out. Gordon Hayward just snapped his leg, I think. Yeah, he was out. You know, it was the team of 2018, and I think your starting 5 were all out. It was a dire game. It was on St. Patrick's Day. Mm-hmm. So you can imagine the Amway was pretty much green anyway. Everybody was cheering for the Boston side. Which didn't like that, I'll be honest. But I sat in this section that was very much, as I say, green. And we sat talking with these guys who had come down specially for St. Patrick's weekend from Boston to take in the game and have a couple of beers. And what a great atmosphere. You don't get that, I don't think, with any other sport where you can, apart from probably rugby union, rugby league, where you can sit together, you can stand together, you can share a beer. You don't have to support the same team, but it has a great atmosphere, and you can't put a price on that. It's just amazing.
Fantastic. That's awesome, Paul. Massively appreciate you coming on as well. Obviously,
happy to do it.
Yeah, we're going to keep doing these, and we'll probably go round again as well, because I'm going to try and get round every team, obviously. Yeah. But yeah, there's no reason to stop it. There's plenty to talk about, plenty of content to share. So really appreciate you coming on, mate, as well, and a shout out to all of you guys for sorting your guests as well. And as I always say, Thanks, mate. Love to you and your family, and please stay safe as well.
And you, be safe, be well. Thanks for
Paul.
having
We'll
us.
talk soon, mate. Cheers.
Cheers, buddy. Cheers, bye.
Thank you. Cool. Right, okay. Yeah, we're a little bit behind schedule. Like I said, I'm not too worried about that. We can stop and start again. So I'm going to see if we've got Dan ready to come in still. Sorry, Dan, that we're a little bit behind where we said we would be. Right, okay. See if we can add Dan in. There we go. Okay, let's see if we get Dan. Hey, Dan.
Hey, what's going on?
How you doing?
I'm doing well, just like everybody else going through this situation. But it was great to see Jeff and Dante on before me, because one of the things I miss most, other than the basketball games, is just the fact that before every game, we all sit down to dinner together. And we kind of have a pregame meal, and that's where we discuss is this anything that's going to happen that night? You hear stories from Jeff about, Michael Jordan and all these guys he went against. And for the diehard basketball fan in me, it's just like, I'm living the dream, sitting there and having these basketball conversations with these guys, getting to debate who was better, Jordan, LeBron. Like, these are all things we do before every game, discuss the matchups that are going to happen tonight. So to get to see those guys and discussing that, it made me feel a little bit like I was back at dinner again, pregame. So I appreciate it. It's great stuff.
That's cool. That's good. It's nice to hear that as well, because, like we say, we're just trying to keep everyone happy, keep everyone engaged, keep the content going, and keep everyone entertained, basically. So, Dan, for anyone who doesn't know who you are and what you do, just give us a little bit of a brief about what your job is.
Yeah, so I'm the digital news director for OrlandoMagic.com. So a lot of the content and stuff that you see on the website, I oversee. And then I work very closely with our PR team, our radio squad, our broadcast, our social media team. So I have my hands in a little bit of everything over the course of the organization, which is great for me. I came to the team in 2009 after spending 3 years writing for NBA.com. So it was great getting to cover the league. Got the opportunity to go and cover Kobe and LeBron as he was coming into the league, the Spurs teams. It was a lot of fun. And had some of those great, like working at NBA.com in that kind of office is like working in a sports bar every night. You have all these guys, all these different team affiliations. It was great discussions. And then in 2009, I got the offer to come down to Orlando. And, my first year, or 2008, 2009, my first year, the team goes to the finals. So, and the second year goes to the Eastern Conference Finals. So it's been a lot of fun working here in Orlando. It's the one good thing you have, the perspective you have when you work at the league level and you're working with all these teams, is which organizations are really good and which ones are kind of a struggle to work with. And so I was able to identify through working with people there and developing relationships that Orlando's a great organization. And when I tell you they're top of the class, it really is between the way they treat their players, the coaches, their staff. And it's seen in crisis like this, they're just phenomenal. I mean, you look at what the organization has done, player by player, staff member by staff member, organization as a whole, trying to help the community through this and taking care of their staff through this. They've been unbelievable. And it's a great organization to be part of. It's a lot of fun.
Okay, I think that sort of echoes what Dante said about the whole Markel Fultz situation as well that we talked about, is that the team took a punt on him, and like I said, he's feeling the love. So that's cool. So, Dan, obviously, it's a bit difficult to ask you at the moment. Talk us through your average day, okay? Because we're going to do a bit of a day in the life with you. But if the league was running...
It takes a while to remember what the average day was like.
So let's assume we've just, I don't know, it's a normal league day. Right. There's a game on. Talk us through your day. How does it pan out?
All right. Do you want on the road or do you want a home game? Because they're a little bit different. Yeah, and the road game would be a little bit more unique based off of what some of the other guys have talked about. I guess it would have a little bit some more intriguing sides. We'll take an on the road day.
Yeah, let's do
it. Probably not going on the road. We meet as a staff, both on the, written side with our video teams, with, broadcasts, with social, kind of discussing what, the road trip's going to look like. content-wise, stuff we're going to try to capture, create, what may be the big storylines we're really looking at on a particular trip. You know, if it's the West Coast trip, you're looking at, you know, capturing the length of that and everything that goes through that. I saw Jacob Diamond, our trainer, was on here before. We've done stories with him about how do you prepare for that, because what those guys do over the course of that length of time is just unbelievable to make it seamless. So in a game day in those situations, in addition to the content research, I do a lot of research about in the city, what's the best breakfast spot to go to. And so, you know, I try to make the most of these opportunities. So the people I work closely with, like John Denton and, you know, others on our social media and video staff, you know, we go there, we discuss what we're going to capture for the day, get back early, take the bus over to practice. And then, you know, it's pretty much capturing content, doing all the interviews that you guys see on the website, etc. And then, you know, you go back home, and then it's already starting to, you know, back to the hotel, and then it's already starting that preparation for the night. You know, the practice may end at noon, and the game may not start till 7, but you're already back on a bus or something like that by 4. So you have a finite window there. And that's, again, where that research comes into play. So you're finding the best lunch spot that's within reason to the hotel. And, you know, we usually try to get the work done there and try to make it fun rather than, you know, just monotonous sitting in the hotel room. So, you know, we're sitting down in some of the, you know, most eclectic restaurants in the country, developing that plan for that night. And then as soon as you get on the bus, it's, again, starting to capture the guys come off the bus, going into the locker room, warming up for the game, setting up some of the live streams that you see with Dante and all the other people that come on. And then the game starts. I try to assist our social media team as much as possible, as well as, you know, paying attention to things like milestones that come up, different storylines that we may want to capture. Do we have a guy mic'd up that night? All those things go into consideration. You know, if an injury or something like that happens, conveying that out to the media and the fans, working with our PR team very closely like that. Game ends, and, you know, that's just when the work really starts, because that's when you're starting to go in the locker room, get all the interviews, streaming coach's press conference, getting all the stuff on the website. So, you know, my game day probably starts at like 7:30 a.m. and then doesn't finish till well after midnight on a particular day. But trust me, I would not trade it for anything in the world, because I love the hoops. I love everything going on, you know, in addition to all the highlights and stuff that we're capturing during the game.
I think one of our guys who runs the account with us, Ginger Shack underneath, has just put basically a hoop fan's dream day in the comments.
No, it's like, look, if I don't want to tell them this, but if they didn't want to pay me for it, I would still be, you know, doing stuff like that. I mean, that's just how I'm wired. So, you know, it's a lot of fun, and again, couldn't do it for a better organization.
That's great to hear. So just another little question from me. So have you got some, I'm a bit careful with these, so I don't want you to upset anyone you've worked with, but obviously, have you got any favourite players, maybe past and present, just to be around, the guys that you vibe off, guys that you have particularly good relationships with? Yeah, no, it's true. I mean, we've been fortunate here in Orlando that the majority of guys that come through this organization have been phenomenal. They do a great job of screening. When I'm talking to my counterparts throughout the league, and you hear some of these stories, it just doesn't apply to the team and players that they brought in here. I mean, even some of the guys that fans give a bad rap, like, you know, you look at Gilbert Arenas. Gilbert Arenas was phenomenal to work with. Like, I loved working with him on a daily basis. He gave phenomenal content. And as you could see with his podcasts and shows he's done since, he's just wired to get how the media works. But, you know, guys that stand out above and beyond, Ryan Anderson was just a joy to work with day in and day out. He's just a regular guy who's playing basketball. Mikal Petrus was personally phenomenal to me. Vooch, Aaron Gordon are great guys that are on this team currently, but I could go down the whole list from Markelle Fultz to Evan Fournier. I mean, the current group we have is just so good. And then I would say the one guy that like really stands out is just Vince Carter on top of that, because
it's really hard to reach that level of success where, I mean, Vince Carter, wherever he goes, is recognized. He's one of the greatest of all time. And yet he still has that demeanor of a guy that's just coming on to make a roster. Like, he's just so down to earth. And it's rare that you see that combination of stardom and still a guy that's down to earth. He was phenomenal to work with.
That's cool. Thank you for that. I've got a question here saying, did you shoot the Aaron Gordon freestyle?
I did not. I was just like everybody else. When I saw it come out, just basically at the same time as everybody else, I did not see the freestyle come out. But I'm not surprised. You know, Aaron's got his hands in a number of different things, and everything he does, he has a lot of fun with. So there's never bad intentions. So when I saw the stories coming out about how, oh, maybe he's got this beef with D-Wade, I knew, you know, in his heart, he's just having a good time and having fun with it, which is what ended up coming out later. But that's just the kind of guy he is. He's a fun guy, and you know, he's good at anything he does.
Yeah, I think the lockdown stuff's created a lot of content, some of which we never expected. Some of which we probably wouldn't have got without the lockdown as well. So yeah, it was quite an interesting one to watch. So, and I know the dunk contest was a whole other controversy. I know Geraint and Dan from the Miami Heat UK podcast went to a whole lot of detail. And if I ask any Orlando fan who won the dunk contest, it's got to be Aaron Gordon. So.
Oh, for sure. But I'm one of those believers that by losing, he actually won. I think in both cases, if you look at that first dunk contest, he lost it to Zach LaVine. But who was on the Ellen show the subsequent day? Who's everybody talking about subsequently? And, you know, by losing again, the storyline was not, you could go and poll the average person. They don't know who won the dunk contest. They just know that Aaron Gordon lost the dunk contest and was robbed. So to me, in both instances, by losing, he actually won. The conversations always have been about the fact that he lost the dunk contest after doing these crazy dunks. In the majority of instances, people don't know that Derrick Jones, you know, the casual fan doesn't know that Derrick Jones won the dunk contest. They just know that Aaron Gordon was robbed. So I think he's gained even more momentum. People talk about it the next day. Look, if they had just given Aaron the trophy, that would have been a subject of conversation for maybe, you know, 12 hours afterwards, and the news cycle would have flipped. The fact that he was given a 9 out of 10 after jumping off the taco, people are still talking about it to this day.
Yeah, and we're still talking about it now.
Yeah, and a normal dunk contest isn't going to have that. So to me, and the message I know our, you know, PR staff conveyed to him is, look, when you look at the metrics of the way people are talking about it, it's he won by losing. So, you know, while it would be great to have the trophy, and I'm sure that's something, you know, he would love to have to be able to talk about it. When people talk about the greatest dunk contest and people who participate in it of all time, it's going to revolve around Aaron Gordon. It's going to be him and Vince Carter and, you know, maybe Zach LaVine.
Excellent. It's a good take. I hadn't thought about it on that level, but it's a good point. Well made. So, Dan, I've got to say thank you. I mean, we are sort of hitting our hour mark.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Please feel free to stay with us because I'm going to stop it and restart and get the other guys on as well. But I just
I'll hop back in if you want to wrap up real quick. We could do it. We can do a little bit more time.
Okay, cool. All right. Okay, I'm going to take you out for a second and then I'll come back on. Thank you. Okay, cool. Right, so guys, yeah, I've just had my 1 minute warning come up as well. So I'm going to end the live now and I'm going to restart. We're going to jump back in with Dan. Mike and Geraint will come on after as well. So yeah, I'll drop off now, but stay with us. We'll be back live in about a minute's time. Thanks. And we're back. Okay, cool. I'll just give everyone a little bit of time to jump back on. Should have tipped my blind a little bit. I look like I've got the sun behind me. There we go. That's a little better, isn't it? Okay, cool. Right. Everyone jumping back on. We've had a phenomenal amount of viewers today as well. So I just want to say thanks to everyone. I always thank our guests, obviously, but thank you to all of you who come in and watch these every week. And I hope you, like I said, I hope you enjoyed watching them as much as I enjoy doing them. So let's see if we get Dan back in. Okay, cool. Right. There he is. Right, we'll get Dan back.
There we go.
Yeah, thanks for that. Yeah, we're back in.
No problem.
So yeah, obviously we was talk about AG and that, and I think another point on him as well is he was in the Uncle Drew movie.
Yes.
Which is kind of a big deal because for me, I don't watch that film anymore for obvious reasons. But yeah, he done well to get into that as well. So
no, definitely.
One thing I just wanted to touch on you as well before we jump off and go on to Mikey afterwards. I know I've done like sort of all time 5, but trying to think of a different question for you.
You know, I've been listening to these, so I'm going to take on. I think because I have a good story behind it, and it pertains to you, so I'll do that. Is favorite win of all time.
Go ahead.
So my favorite Magic win of all time is going to go back to the 2009 playoffs in their semifinal series against the Boston Celtics. So they ended up having Game 7 in Boston, and in that situation where Boston had previously held a 3-2 series lead, and the Game 7 is going to be in Boston, the Celtics were something like, I believe, 32-0 in those situations at home. They just had never lost. And there was a lot going on for me in particular heading into that particular game, because the Celtics, what they do with the ancillary media seating, because they have such a high demand during the playoffs, is they actually put a row of media seats in the stands. So it's like 5 rows back with fans in front and behind. They have this row that's set up as a table with media seating, and it's got, you know, your Ethernet cables, etc., and it has your name tag. Well, I go to my seat to sit down before the game, put my laptop down, and my name's there. It says Dan Savage, OrlandoMagic.com, and the fans behind me go, Dan, it's going to be a long night for you. We're gonna let you have it all game, as if I was playing with the team. So I'm telling you, from start to finish, these guys are riding. Every play is going on. They had given out these towels that fans were waving before. I'm telling you, I'm getting hit with them. They're waving them around. And just as if things couldn't get more abusive for me during the course of that Game 7, when I took the job with the Magic, I also had a job offer for Celtics.com. And the guy who would have been my boss comes over about either pregame or halftime, I can't remember, and basically said to me, how does it feel that you're going to lose out on the opportunity to get a ring tonight because you guys are going to go home with the loss? So I got all that playing in, and then finally in the fourth quarter, the Magic go on this great run led by Hedo Turkoglu, end up winning the game. The fan behind me, who was riding me the whole night, throws the towel down, and just as he's leaving the row, I pick it up and I say, hey buddy, you forgot this, and he just hurls insults at me or whatever. But I still have that towel at my office desk hung up, and you know, to get the last word over the guy who you know, I didn't accept the job offer, so I felt a little bit better about that. You want to think you made the right decision there. And then going in the locker room afterwards, Stan Van Gundy on the whiteboard had written in, you know, big black marker, 32-1. The Magic had, you know, been that first team to beat them in that situation. And so to see that history, to see them overcome a very talented Celtics team, even without KG, you look at that team with Ray Allen, Paul Pierce, Rajon Rondo, they were loaded, and they were playoff experienced and battle tested. And for the Magic to overcome that hump against those guys who were very competitive, I think that prepared them really well for the following series against the Cavs and LeBron.
No, fair play. That's a great story. I love hearing stuff like that. I mean, even though it involves Boston losing, that when you hear stories like that, that's phenomenal. So,
but the great part of that Celtics coverage is when I took the job here in Orlando, I had the intern who was assigned to me was Mark D'Amico. And I said to Mark D'Amico, hey, I just turned this job down in Boston, but I think it's a really great opportunity. You should apply for it. I'll put in a word for you. And he applied, and now he's been the lead writer for Celtics.com for a number of years now. And so, you know, it was just one of those things that worked out well for everybody.
No, that's great. That's cool. I like stuff like that. Dan, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been really good talking to you. I've loved talking to you.
It's been a pleasure
so far. And we'll definitely, like I said to the other guys, we'll go around and we'll have you back on in future if you're happy to do more stuff and tell us about more memories than that as well. So, but yeah, thank you. Stay safe, look after yourself, and love to all your families as well.
You guys too, and you guys do a great job. It's been a lot of fun, and I enjoy these.
Great stuff. Thanks, Dan. You take care. All the best.
Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, cool. Dan, wicked. Thank you so much. Okay, cool. So we're way over time already, but I'm loving this. So we've still got 2 more guests to come. We have 2 of our Orlando Magic UK families. So without further ado, let's get Mikey in. Yeah, he's doing the UK account. There we go. Forgot that then.
Hi, Rich. How you doing, mate?
Good. How are you?
Yeah, great. Thank you. Thanks for having us on.
Oh, pleasure, mate. Thanks. Like I said already, thanks for lining up our guests as well. It's been fantastic. I hope you're enjoying it, man. I'm having a great time. Some of the stories are brilliant.
Good fun. It's good fun.
Brilliant story. So, Mikey, tell us about yourself.
So I've been a Magic fan for 18 years. I went to Orlando in 2002 with my family. And we were on holiday, did the usual things that most people do when they go to Orlando, did Disney, Universal Studios and SeaWorld and all those sorts of things. And saw a flyer in our hotel advertising the Magic. And at this point, I was, 15 years old. I had no idea who the Magic were. I was like, it's basketball, it's the NBA. And so we went to the game, bought a T-Mac jersey. And literally, I had no idea who he was. It was literally because it was number 1, and I grew up playing football, used to play in goal, so my number was always number 1. So I was like, I'll grab that jersey. And it just turns out he was the best player on the team. So so we went to the game, and then for a few years I just sort of kept in touch and used like the websites and stuff like that to keep on top of games. And it's a bit of a different story for me because I lost my mum to cancer 10 years ago, and I lost my brother 4 years ago as well. So when I go back to Orlando, I have those sort of memories and that sentimental value when I go to games. So yeah, it's a bit of a different feeling when I go to Orlando because it's like a second home, if you know what I mean. So so ever since they went, I've always had that attitude, like life's too short, and I've done 7 trips to Orlando since then. I've been to like 25, 30 games. And yeah, that's how it all started, really.
Fantastic. And I know obviously you were pivotal in the launching of Orlando Magic UK, which has over 2,000 followers. Am I right?
That's on Twitter, yeah.
Yeah, on Twitter.
Yeah.
I know obviously Instagram is something that us guys on NBA UK fans have started doing more so lately, and we've seen our followers pretty much double in the space of a couple of months. So, and it is primarily from doing stuff like this. But yeah. So tell us how Orlando Magic UK on Twitter came about then.
So I'll backtrack a few years. So one of my first trips I went out is with Becky, who's my wife, who was my girlfriend at the time. We did a trip we did a trip down the east coast of the States. We went to Orlando for 2 games and spent about 4 or 5 days there. We got the Greyhound bus down to Miami to watch the Heat play when they had the big 3. And then we flew up to New York for 4 or 5 days and went to watch the Magic play the Nets and the Knicks at MSG. And then my missus flew home, and then I went up to Boston. I went to watch the Magic play Boston on the Friday. That was all like within a week's span of one another. So that was quite a cool trip. So that was that trip. 2016, we had the London game when the Magic played the Raptors over here. And so I met Geraint, and there's a few other guys, Lucy and John, and a few of the other guys that sort of started it off with us. And it was only a few years later we figured out that trip that we did a East Coast trip, and we were at the Nets and the Knicks game in New York. Geraint was also at the same game, and we had no idea, and we only found out like a few years later. So we sort of hit it off anyway because Magic fans and everything else, and we got a bit of a group of us together at that London game in 2016, and then we just said nobody else is doing this on Twitter, let's set up a Magic UK account, and we just started tweeting and putting our own opinions and stuff like that and doing game updates. And it's just grown from there, really, mate. That's how it all started.
Fantastic. I mean, you know that pretty much every team has a fan account in the UK as well. There are still a couple that aren't represented. As I know, we obviously talk about that in the group chats that we have on Twitter. So if there's any Utah Jazz fans out there, yeah, obviously they need an account. And I don't know if Atlanta are represented at the moment either. I think someone started one, but then they dropped off with that. So, I mean, to be honest, if you've been to a lot of games in your time as a Magic fan, tell us about a couple of your absolute favourites.
So I would say one of them would be 2011, which was the first year that the Amway Centre opened. I went to 4 games that year. There was a couple that year. The first game I went to was against the Lakers, when Kobe was playing, and their Pau Gasol, Bynum, Metta World Peace, and Magic beat them. And there's a picture that came out of that game, and I turned up to the game with a blue face paint, big blue wig, all my Magic stuff on. Turned up to the game, and there's a picture from, I think it's that game. It's definitely that trip that was used on a Magic advert last year when we went to the playoffs. So it's quite an old trip, but that was a really good game. And on the same trip, we saw them play the Thunder, and that was when that's when they had KD, Russ, James Harden, and it's weird looking back and you think they had 3 future MVPs all on the same team, and the Magic beat them by about 20 odd points, wiped them out. So those are a couple. One funny story, it's not a Magic game actually. On that trip in 2013, we went to Miami to watch a Big 3, and we went to the game. Whilst we were in town, I had an old friend who was working in Miami for a week, and he said, well, while you're here, we'll go out for dinner when you get here. And he said to us, if you go into a game, a little bit of advice, go and leave a few minutes early, go and get on the taxi, and you'll have no problem getting back to your hotel. So we sat there. I want to say the Heat were up by the Heat were down by about 4 with about 30 seconds to go. Toronto had the ball. And Becky looked at me, she goes, I think it's time to go now. So we leave our seats, we leave the arena, we get in the cab, and the guys got the game on the radio. And it only turns out that Miami made a 4-point comeback, took it to overtime, and we're racing back out to our hotel on South Beach. We get to our bar where they had the game on, and we watched like the last 2-3 minutes of the game on the TV, and the Heat won. So that's quite a funny story, but yeah, we never actually saw the end of that in person, but it was quite funny.
Could have been a good one to stay for. I think there's a lesson learned there, isn't there, about never leave
early.
No, that's it. I mean, I know a lot of football fans do it as well. I'm not a massive fan of it, to be fair, but the trade-off is being stuck in miles and miles of queues of people. But you know, so it's one of them situations. So, what's that jersey that you've got that you're rocking there?
My T-Mac one.
Is that the one? Is that the one from when you originally went?
No, the one I originally had was an old replica one, and the numbers are still cracking. But I'm not getting rid of it because that's
absolutely all about the memories, mate. Absolutely. I remember I went to America in 1996, and I've still got the Dennis Rodman dress that I bought in that time because it was literally down to my knees. But that's enough about somewhere. But same thing, numbers are cracking on the back, but. You won't get rid of stuff like that. But,
no chance.
And at the time, he was my favourite player, so it's all good. But yeah, Mikey, like I said, I've got to show a massive amount of love for you guys for everything you've sorted out.
Appreciate it.
And yeah, thanks for coming on. I mean, like I said, we'll do more of these, mate, and we'll do different stuff as well. And I know you guys are active in the community, and it's a great fan account that you run. So yeah, shouts to you. And
appreciate your guys' help and everything else you guys do.
No, that's great, mate. Thanks, Mikey, and yeah, please stay safe, mate. It's still a little bit crazy out there, so
yeah. You take care, Rich.
Thanks, mate.
Cheers, buddy.
Cheers. Right. Okay. So we have one more guest to come on. So just give me a second. Right, I've got to say he's been a bit of a hero with this as well. He's done a lot of coordinating. I don't want to give him too much praise, so I don't want him to get a big head. But he has done a great job with all this. So let's get Geraint in. Hello.
What's going on?
All right. Last but not least.
Yeah, I know.
You enjoyed it?
Yeah, brilliant. Fantastic stories from the Magic personnel. Not heard some of them, so yeah, intriguing.
Excellent. Yeah, as well. Even the ones about the Celtics losing, I'm cool with, man. I love hearing about this sort of stuff. So yeah.
Especially
Yeah, like I said, mate. Before we wade into some topics with you, I just wanted to say thank you for all your hard work sorting this. I mean, I know I've said it all a few times already, but people need to understand that without you guys doing what you do with your connections, that sort of stuff, things like this wouldn't happen. So
you're more than welcome anytime.
Okay, so cool. Anyone who doesn't know you, which I would find it quite hard if they're on Twitter to not know you, tell us who you are, where you're from.
I'm the referee living. Yeah, my name's Geraint Jones. Big, massive Orlando Magic fan. Been a fan since 97, 98. So all started on a family trip to Florida. Just doing the theme parks, as a lot of people do. And I mentioned this to Dan on the Miami podcast just in the week. I had a bit of holiday money. We walked past the Sports Dominator store and there's a big jersey on there. Horace Grant, Orlando. Grant's a bit similar to Geraint and very unusual. So I thought I'll have that, and took it home. Started following scores on CFAX. My brothers both picked the team. My middle brother picked the Sonics and my younger brother picked the Spurs. So a bit of rivalry, as you know. And then we got a game on the PlayStation. As you know, boys do play the PlayStation, have seasons, whatnot. Watching the scores come in, the internet grows, and I think I spent a small fortune on Pontel videos / DVDs. So I need to go through them and try and put them onto CD to keep them. But
I heard you talking to Dan about those the other day. I remember them. They basically used to pay, didn't you? And they'd send you a VHS of the game.
That's it.
And sometimes they were a bit of a shady copy as well, some of them. But you still got them all in the loft, I understand.
I do have them, yeah. But and the other thing was you couldn't pick your commentary, so I couldn't pick the good guys. Sometimes I would end up having the opposing team's commentary, which was, not the best, shall we say.
Yeah, fair play. So all of that happened. Bish bash bosh, you're an Orlando Magic fan.
Yeah.
And obviously you are one of the guys who likes your jerseys.
I do like my jerseys, yeah. I've got too many to count, really. I've got over 40 or so. But I've got a couple of them here. You asked me to bring some memorabilia. So first one is a signed Nikola Vucevic jersey that Nikola kindly signed for me when we went 2 years ago. My friend Mark, who's also watching this, who's a Knicks fan. Going my second one. This is quite a rare one. As you'll see, it's got the gold NBA logo. So that was part of the 50th anniversary back in 96, 97. So a year before I started following the game, just to commemorate 50 years of the NBA. And I think they did a top 50 players at that time as well. So they're few and far between those ones. Now, the GOAT.
Nicholas
Anderson 25. And the great man has signed it himself.
Didn't spot that. You need a close-up for that. Yeah.
No, I know. He signed it in blue instead of black, unfortunately. But
doesn't matter. Still signed.
It's a thing of beauty.
So I guess that doesn't get worn and washed. No?
Oh no, it'll never be washed.
I mean, can I see it? Is that a black Nick Anderson I can see hanging in the background?
In the background, yeah.
That's about 96, 97, yeah?
Yeah, that's the original black was 89, 90. So the blue alternate, the one with the gold on it, came out in 94, 95. So, I've got quite a lot of jerseys, and I do tend to have Nick Anderson on most of them, even the current ones.
Fair play. So it's always a bit of a hot topic. Like, obviously, I quite happily wear hats of different teams because I like the fact that you get different colours and stuff. Do you own any jerseys that are not Orlando Magic jerseys?
I do not at present. However, I must confess, I did buy a Tracy McGrady Raptors jersey, which I had for about 2 months, and then I sold it because I just couldn't keep it.
Didn't feel right.
No, it didn't. It was it's a lovely jersey, and the fact he was McGrady on it, and it was at the time when he was a big T-Mac fan. He was winning all those scoring titles, but no, I had to sell it. So no, just blue and white and a little bit of orange now.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, what's your take? Because obviously there's the orange and black one. What's your thoughts on that one?
The
Do you
City,
like that one?
yeah, I do. It's just it could have a little bit more to it. It's just got the ORL, maybe a shooting ball or some sort of a star in there somewhere, as we're quite used to in Orlando. With the Magic name.
Okay, I like G-Shack's comment on here. So I love that. I just couldn't commit to it in terms of wearing the Raptors jersey. I'm wondering, did you actually sell it to Jimmy Zinker? Because he's a man who likes a Raptors jersey, isn't he?
I might have. Yeah, I don't know.
Excellent.
I don't know.
So guys, have you got any other memorabilia there?
Yeah, I do. I do.
Carry on. Show us your stuff.
I was lucky enough, as the guys have mentioned, the finals in 09-10. You'll see these on the back of the players' chairs.
Yeah.
So finals chair cover.
Fair price.
Which is pretty good. Can you see it properly?
Yeah.
So and that's one of my favourites. And lastly, I have again, sorry about the glare.
Don't worry, mate. We can see
signed wooden panel team ball from 2015. So it's got a bunch of signatures on there. Oladipo, Gordon, Vucevic, who else? Tobias Harris, and Alfred Payton, among some others. Yeah. So that's just some of my fandom. Excellent.
And I'm guessing you have to have separate insurance for stuff like that in context. It's called, mate, we know you live in the valleys. It can be a little bit rough at them parts, isn't it?
Yeah, it's noted on my policy.
Excellent. Okay, cool. I know we've done a few all-time starting five, so I don't really want to go into that with you. And I know that to ask you when the Magic will next win a title will be a ridiculous question, because you'll tell me it will be next season. What I was thinking as I know you're a fan of Markelle Fultz. I think we are, because like I said earlier, we like a comeback story. Fair play. So here's one for you. What is Markelle Fultz's ceiling? And think of in terms of what his ceiling is, and compare him to where you genuinely think he could be compared to in terms of greats at the end of his career.
I could see him being as good as Derrick Rose. I think their games are very similar. Great ball handlers, good at getting to the rim. He needs a little bit of work on his shot, but that's to come. Of course, what with his shoulder injury and whatnot. But like what Dante's just said, let's get the first year through. Let's see how he is this time next year. But he's shown flashes. That game against the LA Lakers at Staples, if you've got a spare 2 hours to watch a game, try and watch that, because he bullies LeBron on a couple of plays, and he's very impressive. So, long may it continue. He's number one pick for just that reason. He's got the potential. So let's just hope it continues. And certainly he'd be an all-star. If he's anything more, fantastic. That's where we're hoping.
Cool, good stuff. And I know you and me, we didn't actually get round to doing that all-time 50.
No, we didn't.
It is something that still may occur. But which players would you put into the all-time 50 because of their time at the Orlando Magic?
Well, you've got to have Shaq in there. I think Shaq was 6th or 7th on my list. I did have a few more. I'm not sure that some of the other guys would agree with, but you certainly look at Tracy McGrady. His scoring feats were superb. 2 scoring titles.
Points, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah. 13 points in 37 seconds. That'll never be done again, let's be honest. And then I would have, T-Mac in there somewhere. Probably, towards the back, possibly, because you do look at some of the greats, some of the people with championships and that. I would have Dwight Howard in there. 3-time defensive player of the year, all defense 7 times, I think it was. Led us to the finals. So, that's some accomplishment.
Very possibly would have had a ring this year as well.
Well, let's not talk about them.
Is that not difficult for you though? Obviously, like you see some of your favourite players playing for teams that you don't like, because Geraint, we know that you dislike quite passionately quite a lot of teams. So
A few.
Here's one for you. So you love Dwight Howard, yeah? You're a fan of Dwight Howard.
Yeah.
So would you not be happy to see the Lakers win? So
No.
one of your okay, cool. That's the end of that question then, isn't it?
Yeah. No. No, I'd sooner the New Orleans Pelicans win and JJ Redick get a ring.
Okay, that's probably not. That's highly unlikely.
No,
then.
it's highly unlikely, but some players left under a dark cloud, shall we say, and then some other players who are fan favourites, we kind of appreciate them a little bit more, and give them a bit more of a clap as opposed to booing them when they come back to our arena.
Cool.
So yeah, that's my thoughts on it.
Okay.
Might not be right, but here we go.
Doesn't matter, mate. That's your thoughts and opinions. No one can ever tell you you're not entitled to have them either. So
yeah,
that's you stick to your guns, mate. Okay, cool. Mate, thank you so much. It's 6:30 nearly. Okay, so these are meant to be an hour long. So that just tells you about the calibre of the guests, the content, everything we've had on. Like I said, big shouts to you for sorting a lot of that out, mate. And thank you for coming on yourself as well and showing us some of your collection. And when we come back around, mate, we'll do it all again sometime. But
anytime.
Yes,
Yes.
stay safe, mate. I know we talk
Thank
quite
you.
often anyway, but look after yourselves. Or love to the family and all that as well, mate.
Will do. All right, mate. Thank you, Rich.
Thanks, cheers. Cheers, buddy.
All the best. Cheers, mate. Bye.
Cheers. Okay, cool. Right, we're done. I'm probably going to be in trouble now because I've got to give a shout out to my missus because every week she looks after our little one while I do this, and I'm always like, it'll be an hour, babe, and she's proper supportive. So, Bethan, thank you. You're amazing. That was awesome. These lives are just wicked. I'm loving them. I'm going to take a week off next week on that note, but the week after we are coming back with I nearly said New Jersey Nets then, a Brooklyn Nets special, okay? So we've already got some people on it. We've got a couple of UK Nets fans accounts, both are going to be involved. Mr. Hoopin' and Luton, hiya, waving now. He's going to be joining us as well. And we'll work on some more guests. We may well have a live at 5 next week. It won't be me doing it, but we'll see what happens. But definitely back in 2 weeks' time to do a Brooklyn Nets special. So yeah, again, thank you to everyone for watching. Really appreciate all your support. We hope you enjoy the content. As I always say, if you've got any suggestions, comments, if someone wants to send me a new hat, whatever, drop us a DM, follow us on Twitter, follow us on Instagram. And yeah, thanks guys. Stay safe, look after yourselves. Take care.